Good evening, race fans. Thank you for tuning into DRL TV. My name is Getty Buckner. I'll be joined tonight by Taylor Butcher Benjamin, and it will be our pleasure to bring you live action of the DRL Truck Series. Last week in the DRL Truck Series and DRL TV, we were in Ridgeway, Virginia at the famous Martinsville Speedway. The goal for these drivers? To see who was going to bring home the victory at one of the hardest and most prestigious tracks in NASCAR history. After 150 laps, 7 lead changes, and 8 cautions, Jeremy Hebel took home the checkered flag in dominating fashion. It was just the second time this season that the race winner also led the most laps. We also saw Casey Drake and PJ O'Leary continue their strong seasons. They both finished in the top 3 and cut into the championship lead that Jeffrey Meyer had going into the famous paperclip. Now tonight, these drivers are getting ready for our annual trip to one of the lost gems in stock car racing. In rural North Carolina sits the legendary Rockingham Speedway. From 1965 until 2004, this 1-mile D-shaped oval was a mainstay of the NASCAR circuit. But it was poor attendance and facility issues that ultimately led Rockingham to being left off the schedule permanently. One thing that was never lacking was the incredible racing and drama that this one-of-a-kind track provides. It may be dormant for now, but the Dynasty Racing League looks to wake up this beast from its slumber. Tonight, it's the Rockingham 125 on DRL TV. Now, as these drivers get ready for tonight's event, we bring in the voice of the DRL Truck Series, Mr. Taylor Butcher Benjamin. When this track was first created, Taylor, it was similar to the other 1-mile tracks that we see, like New Hampshire and Milwaukee. Kind of flat and then almost boring by today's standards. After this track was completely renovated, the Rock, as it's called, was turned into one of the most unique and difficult tracks, 1-mile tracks, that these drivers will ever see. Now, tell me about the challenges that these drivers have to deal with when they come to a shorter track that has 2 completely different sets of corners.
Oh, you're right. It definitely is 2 distinct sets of corners. Turns 1 and 2, it's really difficult to go in there side by side because the exit at turn 2 will come up and slap you right in the face if you're not careful. And as we've talked about, when you hit the wall there, it's not a slight hit. It's almost a race-ending hit. But in 3 and 4, the groove is a lot wider, and we might even see some 3 wide through there. But just a terrific racetrack with multiple grooves. Of course, with the track hot and slick, that'll be another challenge these drivers will face. And tonight we have 2 Cup drivers, including our champion from a year ago, Wade Hustad, joining this field, as well as a couple of Xfinity drivers. So if they're going to conquer the Rock, they're going to have to go through them.
Well, and as you're talking, let's introduce these people to Rockingham Speedway. We are going to take 1 lap with Wade Hustad. We watch him here. He's diving down into 1 and 2. Very important to stay low here. You kind of hear him play with it, and this is the wall we're talking about. We're going to see a lot of action here. Boom! Right there. Wade Hustad, one of the best at utilizing all the track. 3 and 4, a little more forgiving. You can watch as he, kind of drifts up slowly. It's not nearly as instant as 3 and 4, and you see him take the checkered flag right there. That is a championship lap here at the Rock. Now, 125 laps at a short track, that's what we had last week, too. We had 150 laps at a short track, Taylor. Now, you would think that means lots of cautions, beating and banging, but last season when we were here, Jeremy Hebel, who was, as I mentioned, last week's winner, he won this event last year. There was only 3 leaders. There was only 5 lead changes total, and there was only 4 cautions, which is relatively clean for a truck race in general, much less here at a 1-mile oval. Now, we only had 25 drivers in that race last year. This year, we have over 30. But, talking to you now, Taylor, what do you see tonight? Do you see 3 leaders, or do you see several different contenders, lots of cautions, beating, banging? What's your opinion here?
I sense, this series is far more competitive than it was a year ago. I sense quite a different race than we did a year ago as far as I think we're going to see a lot more leaders, a lot more lead changes, and a lot more strategy calls, because we've talked about off the air, the fuel mileage here is about 70, 75 laps around that area. So if we do go green the last half of the race per se, then we're going to see some guys try to make it on fuel, which, although it's really kind of up in the air as far as how many cautions we get, because it is a larger field, but it should be quite a show.
Now, unfortunately, we started a little bit late. We weren't unable to talk to the drivers that I had planned to talk to in pre-race, which were Jeremy Hebel, our defending race champion, and Spencer Tart. Spencer Tart is joining us today. As Taylor said, he finished second here last year, led a couple laps. Jeremy Hebel won this race, just as I just mentioned, but he led the most laps, 74. Spencer Tart, and then we had other guys that are all still with the Truck Series, like Jeffrey Meyer, Dakota Wilkins had a top 5 here. Marvin Wingfield had a top 10. So a couple of the familiar faces that we saw up front, or that we see up front each week, still were here last year. Normally with a feeder series, which is what we call this one, with the guys that are trying to still prove themselves, you see a lot more turnover. But here at the Rock, a lot of names still here that did very well here last year. So it's interesting to see. It will be interesting to see who will be the movers from last year versus this year. The only difference, I guess, to your point, James Lorello, Wade Hustad, who generally do very, very well in these trucks, are in this race, where last year there was not any of the cross series drivers, as you would put it.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna have to go through them tonight, as right now James Lorello is the fastest that has gone so far. Wade Hustad hit the wall on his first lap, but he's completing his second lap right now, and he is on top of the board.
Two things we'll look at here as we finish up qualifying for these drivers. I'll pull up the race flyer one more time. You can see the ambient temperature. It's a little cloudy, and it's 72 degrees. And that means two things. It's going to be a little bit of a slicker surface than what we saw last year. Last year it was 75 degrees, but it was mostly cloudy. This year, with iRacing's new dynamic weather, it's only 72. But with it being partly cloudy, we're going to see this track change a ton in this race. It's going to go from slick to cold to grip to not, and it's already, correct me if I'm wrong, Taylor, it's probably already one of the bumpiest tracks as far as just the wear and tear on the suspension and these drivers' arms and their mind. So very interesting to see how that plays into it. The other thing, as I mentioned in the pre-race at the top of the broadcast, we have the point standings here, and after great runs last week by Casey Drake, PJ O'Leary, there's only 6 points, or there's 10 points that separate first and third. Jeremy Hebel, having those 2 wins, he inched even closer. I know he had a bad race at ISM, so that kind of dropped him back. Robbie Armstrong, our defending truck champ, is in the top 5 still. Jordan Berry, Dakota Wilkins, a lot of these names are still near the top, but I'm looking at the points difference between first and even 14th, and it's only 70 points.
Not very much.
The difference between second and third in the Grand National Series is 82 points, just to put that into perspective. So this racetrack here, it's a driver's track. You can't just kind of be kind of good and maybe luck your way into a win. You have to be good here in order to finish well. So I could see a lot of the guys that have had bad luck, like a Springer, a Holloway, they could finish high, whereas maybe other drivers that maybe might have some bad luck, Meyer, Casey Drake, PJ, we could see so much movement on these point standings here tonight, and that. But what is obviously more important is some of these drivers still trying to get that win that locks them into the playoffs.
At this point in the season, with the way we've had so many different winners in the first half, these guys they can't be thinking points, if you ask me. They're going to have to try to go after wins, as qualifying is just wrapped up, and surprise, surprise, Wade Hustad is our pole sitter.
Yeah, and we'll bring in Wade Hustad here real quick. Wade Hustad, this is the DRL TV booth. Do you have a copy, sir?
10-4, I do.
Well, we talked about all the challenges that Rockingham provides. Here, for you specifically, you've dropped down from the Cup Series 3 times, and something that you're probably not even used to, and we're certainly not used to seeing, you were 0 for 3. Tell us what it takes tonight to get that win out of the Cup Series. Get back to kind of what we were used to seeing last year.
Well, we have to complete a race from start to finish, and that includes capitalizing on those late race yellows. Timing of those really haven't played in our favor the past couple races, but with this track being a driver's track, all the bumps, the character that this track has makes it a lot of fun for these guys, but also it can put you in some pretty bad positions. So again, we just have to keep the nose clean and hopefully stay out front, and we should be good for tonight.
All right, well, you had a great lap here. Welcome back to the Truck Series. Auto Club didn't go that great. Las Vegas went, you've led so much of these laps and just not come away with the win yet. We look forward to watching you navigate this track tonight. So best of luck to you, Wade.
Yeah, thank you. We'll try our best tonight.
And Wade joins S2R this season. With his other S2R teammates here in the Truck Series. One of them just behind him, as we mentioned earlier, James Zarello. But look at the outside row, as we just mentioned, Richard Springer and Jeremy Hebel with a great qualifying attempt. Will be in the top 5. I can't get any more psyched for this race. Rockingham is one of those races that everyone gets excited for because it is so unpredictable with all the bumps, the turn 2 wall. You can't pass in 1 and 2, and 3 and 4. That's where everyone's going to be trying to capitalize on people's mistakes. So I'll tell you what, Taylor, tonight we are in for a good one here, as the pace car will be ducking off here momentarily, and we will be set for lap 1 of 125 here at the Rockingham 125 here on DRL TV.
Yep, Wade said it best. This is definitely a driver's racetrack, that's for sure. And here comes the pace car onto pit road.
And the drivers have to wait until that pace car crosses the white flag or the white line, and Wade Hustad kind of delays just a little bit, but heading into turn 1, here comes the field.
A lot of drivers starting mid-pack or even towards the back that we're not expecting. Spencer Tart, 14th. Casey Drake, our second place points man, qualified and intentionally ran a slow lap. He'll be working his way from literally the back to the front.
That's
lap 1.
That's weird coming from Casey Drake. We talked to him last week or the week before, and he's talking about his renewed confidence. And when you start in the back, that doesn't necessarily promote a lot of confidence here. Hebel almost hits that wall.
We got trouble in the backstretch. Hard into the inside wall. Not sure who that was back there.
We are looking. Dustin Eichert is part of the issue here, as we will look to see what happened. And it actually happened way in front of him. We'll try to see who was it that got involved in that wreck. Then the 57
with some damage. Greg Meyer, the 25, was the one who got sent towards the inside wall. He and Terrence Sine got together.
We saw the 57 hit the outside wall here. We'll see if that has anything to do with this wreck. We see him there. There's a checkup. Terrence Sine checks up, tries to drop down. The 25 is already there. It does collect Dustin Eichert, and I'm trying to see if there were other drivers involved that would have gotten damage. We've got the 25 and the 7 definitely getting most of that damage here. But lap 3, I don't expect these leaders to pit. This will be a relatively quick caution here, but David Wellborn, Craig Meyer, Dustin Eichert decide to come down. And actually, let's go back and see if Wellborn ended up getting some damage from that. Let's try that one more time.
Yeah, I believe he does on the left front just a little bit.
Yeah, it's not allowing me to go back once, like we were just a moment ago. So we did see the most damage coming from the 25 and the 7, which was started from Jordan Berry hitting the wall, and it was just a big old accordion effect.
I'm Looking at Jordan Berry's truck, it doesn't seem too bad.
No,
He's
certainly
another one of our top points guys. Comes in here 6th.
Yeah, he certainly didn't. It's not like he caused the wreck. He just slipped up a bit, scraped the ball, and it was everything behind him. Terrence Sine trying to maybe move down a line or two to try to see in front of the trucks that were in front of him. I wish I could go back a little bit further and watch his in-truck cam to see what he saw, but we did see him go down and kind of just tail whip the 25. I tell you what,
there's nothing Craig Meyer could do in that situation. And David Wellborn, he got very slight damage, but he has disconnected.
Well, we're going to go back, and I do want to see if we can try it one more time to get... And it does not look like that will be cooperating with us trying to go back that far. But what we do know, Wade Hustad has led all 5 laps. He got out to a little bit of a lead. Lorello didn't let him go, though. Lorello moved past Springer to get into that second spot. One thing we'll see here on this restart, and what I assume will be 1 lap, is that outside line on the restarts. The leader can choose between outside and inside. I could see Wade Hustad picking the outside to try to get that run into 1 and 2. But everyone else behind him that doesn't get that jump as a leader, they're going to be at a huge disadvantage on the outside, because turns 1 and 2, as we'll see tonight, that's definitely a one-groove track.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or a one-groove, one-groove turn.
Sticks out. Hustad doesn't quite pull away from James Lorello as they dive into turn 1. Boy, look at these guys. PJ O'Leary very high.
And Lorello to the inside.
Hustad drives in hard, but Lorello gets the drive off, and he's going to take the lead.
And Springer is going to... no, he's just not close enough to take advantage. I was going to say, he could try to peek in there as well. James Lorello had a great run last night in the Grand National Series, finished 2nd to Ryan Hesgaard, so he's not had a great season as far as luck is concerned here in the Dynasty Racing League in his main points-producing series. Behind these guys, we have Hebel.
Hebel is taking 3rd.
And Dakota Wilkins, who started on the outside of that last restart in 4th, is now into 5th.
Oh, he and Meyer get together. That was close.
But going back to Lorello, I mean, he had that great run last week. He finished 2nd at Martinsville the week before, so a little bit of momentum on Lorello's side that will make him hard to beat tonight, as he pulls out to just a tiny little gap over Wade Hustad.
Well, this track temp has cooled down to 98 degrees, so it's still going to be slick out there despite it cooling down a little bit. I mean, we got a lot of trucks bouncing off each other in the middle of the field and in the back of the field.
We're currently looking at
and
the 11th
another
place.
Caution.
Oop.
Turn 2 again.
And Eric Weatherholtz is involved. I see that. Let's try to get a replay of Eric Weatherholtz, as we were just watching 11th place. This happened just a little bit behind these guys. And the 09.
In front of Eric. Yep, Trent helped.
And Eric just couldn't quite get woed up in time, but similar to almost what we saw last week, if you get a little bit of nose damage, that's not too bad. I mean, that Eric did hit him pretty hard. But it's going to be the fenders, and just with the velocity that you can hit turn 2 here, that does the most damage. Let's see if we can bring in Eric Weatherholtz. I'm not sure if he's in the Discord. He's actually not. I was going to ask him about his damage. But in the meantime here, let's take a little bit of a break here on DRL TV. We will be back for our 3rd restart of the race, as some of the leaders have decided to pit. So and we will be right back after a 60-second break on DRL TV. And welcome back to the Rockingham 125 here on DRL TV. Adam Purcell ends up staying out to lead that lap. He will come into the pits. On that last caution, my colleague and person who has a great set of eyes noticed that it wasn't the Trent Helt who spun on his own. He actually got a little bit of assistance from Roy Grande Jr., who in fact is his teammate, but we have got the one to go here. Taylor, so far this race, has almost produced as many cautions as we had last year total. So when I asked you what type of race we were going to get, whether it was going to be different from last year, so far it certainly has. Lorello with the lead. He does choose the inside line. Wade Hustad on his outside. Jeremy Hebel and Brady Briggs is in fifth. A name that we haven't heard this season here in the DRL Truck Series. But I tell you what, how about we try to rev it up here on this restart, something that we neglected to do last week.
Yep, that sounds good to me.
And the pace car is just getting ready to duck off. We will be quiet as we will let these trucks do the talking for us. Lap 13 of 125. Green flag just about to come out here on DRL TV. Here we go. And that was us revving it up as we are riding on board with Jeffrey Meyer, our points leader, and you can see absolutely all the wheel movement inside that car. That's going to take a toll. Only lap 17 of 125, and I'm sure some of these drivers could be already tired.
Yeah, this track is a lot like Dover and Bristol for that matter. It can wear you out physically, especially when you're battling on the outside of Brady Briggs like you are right. That Meyer is right there.
Yeah, Brady Briggs with a very intense pinch there on Jeffrey Meyer, and with the track this bumpy, they definitely have to be careful here.
Well, up front, Lorello has a mirror full of his teammate Hustad. Oh, got trouble again in turn 3. That's Brady Briggs. As well as James Pandoff.
Try to get Brady Briggs here. Right on board with him. We saw there at the tail end, it looks like he was already spinning there. Let's see if he gets a little help here from Jeffrey Meyer.
Yep, he sure did. I'm not wonder if Meyer was a little displeased on the way he was getting raced hard by Meyer or by Briggs the lap before, but yeah, that wasn't too pretty.
Let's see if he had position on him.
That didn't look like full-on position to me.
No, that might have been Jeffrey Meyer letting him know he's a little irritated. Brady Briggs was almost fine until Pandoff came in and gave him a little bit of an extra nudge on the inside. But Brady Briggs, I think that's the type of damage. He was fast enough, clearly, he was in the top 5, to continue. His nose is a little crumpled. We also saw that during that Rev It Up session, Jeremy Hebel's nose was a little bit crumpled up as well. And he was still contending for top 3 up until that last yellow flag. But as all these leaders are pitting, this tells us one thing. Tires are really important. It's not, you don't normally see the leaders pit after so few laps. So I think we're going to see a lot of people staying out. We're going to see a lot of different strategy today, more so than we normally would, with the leaders being so hell-bent, if you will, on getting fresh tires at every opportunity. As Hebel just beats out defending champ Robbie Armstrong. And I tell you, 20 laps in, 3 cautions. Already a couple drivers that have left this race altogether. With David Wellborn, Eric Weatherholtz, I believe Craig Meyer is still in the race, but he is the last car in the lobby in 30th place, 17 laps down, getting that damage fix from that first caution.
Yep, and Eric Weatherholtz, after being involved in the second one, has called it a day. Corey Sherman stays out the lead a lap. And Brady Briggs actually has just DC'd as well.
So Brady Briggs is out. Adam Faree up to second. Now, looking at Corey Sherman, and we kind of see this each and every week. Looking at his best lap so far in the session, he has ran a 24 flat. That is his best lap. Wade Hustad's is a 23.5. So if Corey Sherman and Adam Faree, who is a few tenths faster on his, again, this is just their best lap total. If Adam Faree and Corey Sherman stay out, that could really stack up some of these guys here up front, which could bring more, type of racing that we saw earlier with lack of patience. So we've also seen it in previous weeks when David Wellborn has stayed out. We've seen what happened on a restart with Wade Hustad at Auto Club. He went 3 wide on a restart because of a slower car in front of him that stayed out and ended up ending his opportunity at a win there.
Of course, that was later on in the race as well, with only about 10 laps to go. But to be pretty frantic, I would think, on this restart as well,
and
as he's top 2 in front of him.
Corey Sherman stays out, and with the track being as bumpy as it is, maybe the higher temperatures, we could see a little wheel spin here. I mean, I know these trucks are a little bit underpowered when you can put them side to side to the other vehicles that we run here in Dynasty Racing League. But with this track, as unpredictable as it could be, and the fact that they do have a few laps on their tires, 11 to be exact, I believe, a little bit of wheel spin could happen here. So let's keep an eye on that as we are getting ready to start this race one more time. We still have over 100 laps to go at Rockingham 125. And let's see what. And
we've already had. Well, you said we had 4 cautions all last year. We've already had 3 in 20 laps. So.
And Faree putting the pinch down on Sherman here on this restart.
We held him up. I would expect. Oh, they're getting together.
That's the wheel spin. 4. Oh, I thought Lorello was going to take it 4 wide. Hustad immediately snags the lead, but they are 3 wide and 1 and 2. Sherman all over the place.
Sherman is in a tight spot. He is backing up to the field in a hurry.
Robbie just gets by Spencer, Jeffrey Meyer. Adam Faree held his own. Corey Sherman, however, is free falling, already outside the top 10, or he is in 10th actually. But going back up to the front here, Wade Hustad was able to take advantage. He passes that up. Adam Faree in front of Jeremy Hebel, but not for long and not by much.
We're looking at Casey Drake. He was way up against the wall, but he's already sliced halfway through the field here in the first 25 laps. Started 26th and now is 13th.
We watched this battle for second, and Casey Drake, as we mentioned, started in the rear purposefully. So apparently he has speed. We wouldn't know it because of his lack of qualifying. Now Richard Springer is going to try to follow Hebel right behind Faree, and Faree does cut his nose.
Well, that restart also didn't work out for James Lorello, as he's stuck right now behind this battle for 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about 1 and 2 being a 1 groove turn, the inside line being preferred, and he was as close to that wall as he could be, going 3 wide on that restart. So it did not work out for him. It worked out for Faree so far, and it had definitely worked out for Wade Hustad, already out to a 1.1 second lead over last week's winner and defending race champion Jeremy Hebel.
How about Adam Faree, though? He's still, although he gets really high off of turn 2, but he's maintaining his own, unlike Corey Sherman, who's had pretty tough sledding after that restart, but he's still up here trying to fend these guys off.
One driver that I'm looking at just behind this battle, Spencer Tart. We mentioned him briefly in the pre-race. The last time we saw Spencer in a truck was at Homestead, where he gave up that points lead to the person that he's battling on the outside, Mr. Robbie Armstrong. Jeremy Hebel, Spencer Tart were battling at Homestead. One little slip up by Spencer cost him and Jeremy an opportunity at grabbing the championship, but Spencer has since moved on up to the Cup Series, as well as he should. He has more than enough talent to compete up there, but tonight qualified a little bit deeper than he probably wanted, but already gained half of those spots back from 14th to 7th. Oh, a little bit loose there.
Hands full trying to avoid Faree.
And Spencer Tart, as we know, almost notorious for pushing his truck as hard as it can every single lap. So, talking about the unpredictability of the rock here, if you hit one of those bumps, goofy under full throttle, I mean, it doesn't take much to get that truck sideways. As Faree is now starting to feel the effects of those older tires. Only 11 laps around those tires, so that's a huge difference as he's falling victim to Jeffrey Meyer here, who a little bit of damage from that contact with Brady Briggs, but not too significant. But that did put Meyer back from just inside the top 5 or around the top 5 to battling for 7th.
Well, one thing I gotta say about Spencer Tart, talking about how he pushes hard every lap, he does have. Last year Wade Hustad was on a different team. This year Wade Hustad is with S2R. So he's been able to guide and mentor Spencer a little bit. And it's certainly paying dividends.
Still on board with Adam Free, the 29 truck. Winner of our Las Vegas race, who actually beat Wade Hustad. Watching behind is Jordan Berry. Almost tried to attempt to pass, but got really, really loose. And we also saw a good shot there. Dakota Wilkins electing the higher side in 3 and 4, which, because 3 and 4 is banked a few more degrees than 1 and 2, it does promote more a wider range of line usage. In 1 and 2, though, because of that shallow exit, you have one entry and one exit. I don't see the race winner being someone who has gone and done something unique in turns 1 and 2. In order to be fast,
it's only one line, and if you miss that line, you'll be in trouble.
And you can see Wade Hustad, as we'll ride on board with him. We did earlier this race when he was on fresh tires just before qualifying. We'll see exactly how he approaches turn 1 and 2 now.
I would expect him to be right on that yellow line.
I mean, he is in the turn almost before the turn even starts,
yeah.
It seems like. And that he knows what to do. He has a 2.2 second gap over Jeremy Hebel, Richard Springer, James Zarella behind Richard Springer for 4th, Robbie Armstrong still 5th. But going back here in the pack, we've got Daniel Holloway and Dakota Wilkins battling to get a spot here in the top 10. Adam Breeden just behind him. Casey Drake still holding firm in 13th. And PJ O'Leary in 14th. So those two drivers are both outside the top 10, are both drivers that were chasing Meyer and really closed up that points gap after Martinsville. And Eichert, a lap truck, causing a little bit of mayhem here.
And we saw last night how some lap traffic.
Oh, Barry!
Oh, that was a close call there.
Now we've brought up several points tonight, but here's our last one. Look at Barry as he touches that yellow line. And you can't do that. On entry, he just got on that apron, and he was almost sliding throughout that whole corner. So many rules here at Rockingham, Taylor.
Yeah.
A lot of things you can't do.
A lot of rules of thumb to go by. Yeah, these drivers thought they had enough rules in the actual rule book itself.
Now 13th and 14th have switched spots. Let's go back here. We got Marvin Wingfield, who did finish well here last season.
Got a top 10, like you mentioned.
No damage on the truck. Jarrett Rogers just behind him, but he's in 19th spot. Marvin Wingfield, as we've kind of noted this season a few times with some of these drivers, we don't really talk about them until almost we're at the end of the race, unveiling the unofficial results as, you know, they're maybe a top 7 truck. Marvin Wingfield, besides his luck at Auto Club when he was taken out by Bill Edwards, who was another Cross Series drop-down, he's been sneaky good at the end of these races. So I don't expect that.
It really has been a nice surprise this year. Right now we got Richard Springer just took second away from Jeremy Hebel.
And our scoring does correct. Wade Hustad was not 53 seconds ahead of Richard Springer. 3.5 though, and in just these 20 laps, it's under this green flag, almost 4 seconds of a lead that Wade Hustad has. Similar to what we saw last night with Ryan Hesgaard, his S2R teammate, even though they don't run the same series together, they are under the same team name. Last night at Texas, we saw Ryan Hesgaard just put on an absolute clinic. At one point, I believe he was almost 7 seconds ahead of the field. But behind him, there was still some intense racing going on. Still some intense racing, and we're looking back, this battle for just, from basically 10th on back, these drivers are still very, very close. Adam Ferree on those no tires, still holding firm in 8th. So Dakota Wilkins, just behind him, Daniel Holloway. We're trying to chase him down. Holloway's got a little bit of rear end damage, it looks like.
I'm not sure where that came from, but that's pretty significant back there. I would assume that would kind of impact the handling of that truck.
Yep, and with the 1 mile track, we see it's different from a short track. It's different from I'm sorry, did I say mile and a half? This is a 1 mile track. It's different from the mile and a half, so we see where almost any damage will slow you down. It's also different from the short track where you can receive a little bit, but at a short track, we saw a lot of trucks that finished well last week that looked like they had almost intentionally entered a demo derby, and they still finished well. Here, you can get a little bit of damage because there's not as high of speeds, but with the suspension that you need here, you cannot ruin, especially that right front, you cannot ruin any suspension here, but a little bit of aero damage, I feel like, will be forgiven, especially as these tires get a little bit older and the speeds drop down just a little bit.
Right now, Wade Hustad has opened up about a 4-second lead, but he's in some lap traffic right now that he's going to have to negotiate through.
Oh, Barry again. We're still back here in this battle. All these drivers changing positions. This battle for, I believe, 8th on back to 13th. A very big cluster of trucks. Here's Barry. Oh. This is the 3rd time he gets out of his line here. And some of these drivers are having a difficult time navigating traffic, and Barry, instead of challenging for maybe a top 10 here, he's going to end up losing a spot here to Terrence Sine, potentially for 14th. That's all it takes is one little slip up. Well, we're going to drop back here. David Lindahl. He's being led by a James Pandolf train of these 5 drivers, trying to round out our top 20, and look at the guy in the back in 19th, Corey Sherman. I don't know where he was before. I'm not sure where he was before that restart.
Oh, look out, David Lindahl. Big time drift entering turn number 1.
A great job checking up behind him as the 19 and the 01 did not make contact. They did everything but. Down now with David Lindahl, unfortunately, he's going to have to take a lap or 2 off to cool those tires down, which is going to cost him a spot or 2.
Yeah, that's a way to get your heart pumping. I was just about to say what a nice job he did last night in the Xfinity Series. I believe he finished about 7th or 8th last night in Texas.
Yep, yeah, he was involved in a last lap incident with Gary Cronenwet. He doesn't mind which way you say it, but yeah, no, other than that little mishap there, he had a solid race, and moving up a series is a lot harder than moving down, especially when you're out of your element. Wade Hustad's certainly not out of his element in these trucks. He's said before on record that these are his favorite vehicle to drive. Unfortunately, because of DRL, we will never let him run down here on a full-time basis. But he is out.
Look back here for 3rd between Hebel, Arello, and Armstrong. They're bumper to bumper to bumper back here.
We're on board with Robbie Armstrong, again our defending race champ, starting to move up the point standings here as of late. Some of that bad luck that he had early on in the season. One stat about Robbie Armstrong, Taylor, that I absolutely love. Last year, We only ran, I believe, 26 races versus the 36 that are scheduled for this season. But still, that being said, 0 DNFs.
Yep.
Now,
No
Robbie,
DNFs. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Very consistent.
That's not saying that he didn't wreck. That's just saying that he stayed in the race. He was determined to fix his damage and maximize points. And what did it do? He entered the playoffs, all just barely above the 12th place position that he needed. He was in 8th, and he ends the season as our Truck Series champ.
I mean, he definitely benefited from, and he'll be the first to tell you, benefited from some good fortune, but, you know, good fortune, that certainly counts in this sport.
No, I mean, he ran the race that he needed to win, and that's all he cares about, and that's all he keeps doing now that his luck has changed. And when I say luck, I mean getting caught up in wrecks at Daytona, you know, getting off sequence on pits, things that you can't control at all. You know, if a truck wrecks in front of you, like we saw Eric Weatherholtz earlier, I mean, there's just almost nothing you can do. Now he's up front far enough where he can kind of control his own destiny, and when he's in that position, he always finishes well. So looking for a top 5 for Robbie currently, as we are 55 laps into our 125 lap race. Spencer Tart has not really made it through the field in a way that I think he would have wanted after finishing 2nd here last year. Jeffrey Meyer passes him for 6th. Adam Faree still holding strong in 8th on the 11 lap older tires. But correct me if I'm wrong, he cannot make it to the end yet on gas. So
no, nobody can.
Nobody can, but he will have to pit sooner than most. And as soon as he pits now, he can
bring a whole bunch of people with him.
He'll bring a whole bunch of people with him, and in just a few laps, that we will be hitting our fuel window of between 75 and 78 laps here on fuel. We could see some guys short pit here. I'm not sure if we will.
It's possible. I mean, the window is open if they feel like the tires are, which of course they're very important, but they have that option.
Well, what I'm looking at from our lap times right now, Wade Hustad just ran a 24.9. His best is a 23.5. It looks like in the first few laps there's significant drop off, and then almost similar to Auto Club. Oh my goodness! Look behind Richard Springer. Almost similar to Auto Club. It really tapers out and evens out. So you lose a lot of speed early on, and then after that you really don't lose too much, unless of course you do what David Liddell did and try to drift through these corners. Then you certainly will lose a little bit more speed.
I'm looking at the front of Spencer Tart's truck. He's got a little bit of damage on the right front.
Yeah, and who's to say whether that was a wall incident or a... You know, we saw how closely he was running with some of these other guys. That could have very well been a... bumping into the rear of somebody. But I feel like with how uncomfortable these trucks here, as soon as you bump somebody, and we saw it with Jeffrey Meyer, it not being that significant of a bump to Brady Briggs, it doesn't take much to turn a truck here.
Nope, not at all. As we complete lap, or begin lap 60, getting to the halfway point, Hustad now up to 4.5 second lead, starting to expand that lead once again after getting through those lap trucks.
Now looking here at James Arello, he was very fast. He qualified 2nd, and after that last restart, he fell back to 4th or 5th and just hasn't been able to work his way up back through the field. So we're seeing track position be super key. I think James Arello, if this does go green, one thing I saw from him last night in the Grand National race is he was very, very good, just like Wade Hustad is. He's very good and very aggressive when pitting under green. He knows exactly what he needs to do to get every mile an hour off of that thing before he enters pit road. So we'll see how that shakes up the field if we do end up getting to that point.
Yeah, because he's shown just as much speed as Wade Hustad, but again, just that lack of track position and that tough break he caught on that restart. But if he can ever get back up there, he might be able to challenge his teammate. Yeah,
interestingly enough, in the top 5 that last time by, James Arello was the slowest of the trucks. Wade Hustad and Richard Springer are still running identical lap times, both running 24.8s, and James Arello was 0.2 off of that speed with a 25 flat. Now, one thing I can't get over is just this little group back here from 8th on back. The separation there. Oh, free!
Boy. I closed in on that lap truck of Dustin Eichert, and he had to slam on the brakes.
We were going to get a replay of that through the cockpit of Adafree. Look at this closing rate. Eichert would have been wise to stay high there, but free. Look at that! Look at that handwork.
Man, that was a great job to keep from off of him.
And another thing with these lap cars, I mean, it's not their fault. Dustin Eichert got damage that was not of his own doing, but especially in turns 1 and 2, we saw how that closed the gap between Dakota Wilkins and Daniel Holloway for a moment. And look at Casey Drake try to take advantage of Dakota Wilkins' little slip up there. It seems like Dakota Wilkins is one of the only few trucks that's very, very comfortable on that high side in 3 and 4.
Yeah, we haven't really seen him move down towards the bottom. It gets clear of Casey
3 wide.
Drake.
3 wide. My goodness. 2 lap cars, one inside, one outside. They're threading the needle here at Rockingham. Wow.
That was exciting, needless to say.
Let's go back up here to Richard Springer. And I'll take this opportunity for anyone watching. DRL TV broadcasts 3 races a week. We have our Cup Series on Monday, our Grand National Series on Tuesday, and tonight, of course, featuring the great drivers here in the DRL Truck Series almost every week.
Oh, got a caution. Terrence and A down the back straightaway.
Ooh,
that was contact with the lap truck, of Trent Helt.
Yeah, let's get a replay of that, and let's try to get on board with Trent Helt. He gives the room, and you'll see Terrence A just renegade his way up, and I'm not sure. I think he was trying to get in front of him so that way he could diamond out 3 and 4 the best way possible. Terrence A, one of those guys with bad luck. He finally had a good run last week. Tonight, that one little mishap is going to put him at the back of this field. I'm trying to see how much damage Terrence A received. I don't think it's anything too significant, so he will live on to fight another day.
Well, he did go a lap down because the leaders were coming up on him, and maybe that had to do with a sense of urgency to get clear of that lap truck, but it didn't work out.
No, that lap truck was very much still there, but our leaders will obviously pit, and when we get the restart with probably 73, 72 laps to go, that will put us in our fuel window. But one thing to be aware of, as we've seen all season, we've had that one nice long run in the middle of the race, sandwiched in between 2 bouts of cautions. So even though Terrence A is a lap down now, we could get a couple quick cautions that put him back on the lead lap.
James Lorello had a very difficult entry into his pit box. He still hasn't gotten it right.
James Lorello going from bad to worse here. And, I mean, running in 4th place is bad for James Lorello in these trucks, believe it or not. And he will be definitely much further back.
Hustad in first, out first.
I believe Austin Collins will be staying out to get a lap lead. He is scored as our leader.
I'm not sure he's going to get it because leaders are right behind him. And
Austin Collins, teammate of Jarrett Rogers, both of them having very unfortunate, quiet seasons. They started the season by wrecking each other at Daytona, and it seems like since then, besides Jarrett Rogers, who I believe got a pole, these 2 drivers struggling to find that little bit of luck, that little bit of consistency. But he does try to get that lap lead and help the points position situation that he's currently in. A lot of wave-around cars in front of Wade Hustad. Those are not people that have stayed out. Roy Grande Jr., the 58 of Adam Purcell. And who is that other truck there? I cannot see. The 7 of Dustin Eichert. But anyway, to my point, before I was rudely interrupted by someone wrecking, we broadcast these 3 races almost every week. There's only a couple bye weeks this season, so from here almost through November, we will have solid weeks of racing. If you like what you see here, if you like our broadcast tonight, any of the other broadcasts any other night, or you are a fan of the driver, or just a fan of the racing that the Dynasty Racing League provides, please hit like and subscribe on YouTube. That gives you the ability to get notified anytime we go live, which is at just around 7:30. No, 8:30 Central Time, 9:30 Eastern. That's when these races, that's when qualifying starts. We always go live by that point, so please hit that, and you will never miss a moment of the Dynasty Racing League. More importantly, of the DRL Truck Series. I don't know, Taylor, maybe I'm a little biased, but I feel like the racing that we've had this season has just
been terrific.
It's been terrific, and I can't say enough about these drivers. I think they've been outclassing the other two as far as competitive, from first to 20th. Even last night, not a lot of battles. We saw it almost all week. It was a lot of strung out drivers. Here, they're all bunched up. Everyone is so fast. Just incredible racing here as we were just about to go green. Lap 73 of 125 about to be underway at the Rockingham 125.
That's the best restart Hustad has gotten all night.
Springer trying to look inside of Hebel, who actually got out in front of him on that sequence of pit stops, and look behind. Who's in fifth? Spencer Tart.
Spencer Tart, yep. He's got Jeffrey Meyer underneath him now, but we knew before, sooner or later, by the time we got down to the end of this race, that Spencer Tart would be up here.
And just behind him, Casey Drake, who qualified 26th.
26th.
Ooh, Hebel, way high.
Oh. He's going to lose a ton of spots.
Let's try to get a replay of that situation that Jeremy Hebel just had.
Oh, we had a little contact with Springer. Like, Springer got a little loose, and Hebel happened to be on the outside of him.
Now, currently, right now, trying to get this replay for you, and
I kicked Hebel back to 9th. Look who's joined the top 3, Robbie Armstrong.
Robbie Armstrong takes advantage of that, and we're going to watch this replay of see what happened to our defending race winner. It looks like Springer got a little bit loose, and Hebel was just a victim there. It still could have been a lot worse for both of those drivers. A great checkup as we go back to our live race feed. James Zarello, after that awful pit stop, being very aggressive here, trying to get inside of the 29 of Adam Faree, who, that no tire strategy ended up paying off. He kind of plateaued in 8th, and that's where, just about where he is now. As Lorello looks inside.
Yeah, Lorello, oh, that was close, but
Faree not.
He actually didn't lose as much ground on pit road as I thought he might. He was back to, I believe, 9th on this restart, but he knows he's got to get going, and he can't wait around for these guys.
And right now, this is the best battle we have on track among the leaders. Wade Husad out to an 0.8 of a second lead over Richard Springer. One thing that I noted on that last run, though, is after the first few laps, Springer and Wade were running similar lap times. So maybe Springer is now starting to dial in and kind of figure out what he needs to do here. If he can keep it close to Wade and put pressure on him, something that Wade hasn't had all race long, he might be able to force him into a mistake and take a victory here. Of course, that's all hypotheticals. Lorello pushing the 87 of Casey Drake on exit. Meanwhile, Hebel behind him trying to take a pass, and look at this cluster of trucks.
Yeah, it is definitely a cluster, and they're actually making it through turn 2 side by side. We got someone in the wall behind them.
That's interesting that you mentioned that these trucks didn't get into the wall, but someone else behind them did. Very tight racing as Hebel is trying everything in his power.
Just brushed the wall down the front stretch. That was a little weird.
I could even, looking at the truck language of Jeremy Hebel, he really wanted to take a 3 wide there. I believe that was Jordan Berry that hit the wall again behind him. He's having a rough race. He's been all over. He's still running very well, minimal damage, but a couple slip-ups here and there. And that's costing him some positions as Lindahl is trying to block the 6 of Corey Sherman. And behind them, P.J. O'Leary having an uncharacteristically quiet night in 15th.
Oh, again Barry hits the wall.
Now, I'm not sure if that's a I mean, that could be a slight little iRacing, you know, like a netcode situation where he's actually not hitting it, but
PJ
turn
O'Leary
behind him.
gets turned. Both trucks stay clean. Caution is out.
Now, I'm going to call netcode right now. I was just talking about it. I saw a big gap in between those trucks before the spin was initiated. We were watching.
Well, I guess if there's any blame to be placed, I mean, PJ O'Leary came from the middle of the top grooves. I mean, just right down in the path of Jarrett Rogers. And how Jarrett Rogers missed from hitting the inside wall, I don't know.
And netcode or not, PJ O'Leary was dead set on chopping that nose of the 9 truck there. As we go live here, I do expect the leaders. That wasn't a long enough run for most of these guys to pit. Short enough, though, we still might see a couple guys try to stay out. Hopefully they have taken note of what happened with Corey Sherman and Adam Faree, and they, you know, are advised against it because we saw just the unreal speed difference here. But as these trucks come down pit road, DRL TV is going to take a break here. We will return shortly with the restart of the Rockingham 125. And welcome back to the Rockingham 125. Jeremy Hebel takes 2 tires here and stays in front of Wade Hustad. We saw that little slip up there that almost forced him into that situation. We'll see what comes of that. But because we missed last week, we're going to make up for it. We're going to rev it up a second time and watch the action from these trucks and listen to them how God intended. Loud and in your face, as this is DRL TV getting ready for restart to restart the 87th lap of this 125 lap race. I could do that almost every restart. I feel like that is insane. I love the sound of these trucks. One thing we noticed is, even though we're almost wrapping up this race here, just outside of 35 to go, you could hear it in the throttle. There was still a lot of give and take, especially in the middle of the field, which is good to see. But at some point, we're going to not see that anymore. We're going to see not people letting off the throttle. But
it's going to be all take at the end of this race. And how about Jeremy Hebel? We talked about during the commercial break, might be a little bit of wheel spin on that restart with just 2 fresh tires, but he executed that well, and he's maintained second place.
Well, with 25 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4, 22 in turns 1 and 2. Obviously, he changed right sides. Those are going to be the ones, especially that right front, that takes the most beating. So maybe these left sides, maybe Goodyear, quote unquote, brought a good tire here where these left sides are holding up a little bit better. We know that no tires just should never be an option, but 2 tires right now is paying off for Jeremy Hebel. Now, just behind him, Jeffrey Meyer, who we saw earlier get involved in that incident with Brady Briggs, suffered an EOL penalty, or no, he didn't. But he's moved his way back up to 5th. James Lorello continues to keep sliding back on these restarts. He's after that pit road issue. I expected him, and I think I even said it. I expected him to be very aggressive, making his way through the field. But right now, it seems like these top 5, these top 7 guys are so even on speed. Ooh, Meyer with a little bit of. Not quite a pinch, but kind of came down on him a little bit. Meyer will give that position up. But what I was saying is, with Lorello, we know he's fast, but I think these top 5, top 6 guys are almost, with the exception of Wade Hustad, who's out by a second, by the way. They're all almost relatively same speed. And it seems like after lap 1, when we see where these guys get sorted out after the restart, that's just kind of where they are now, and that includes Jeremy Hebel on those 2 tires. Richard Springer, you would expect.
It just shows you, sorry guy, it just shows you how hard it is to pass, even with 4 fresh tires against 2.
Yeah, and I mean, and maybe Dakota Wilkins, as I am highlighting him right now, maybe he's on to something with that high line in 3 and 4. As that rubbers in the inside line, maybe that will be a way to pass. But right now, still not a lot of takers on that high line. The last person that we saw on the high line was PJ O'Leary. That didn't turn out so great. So, I'm not sure if he got loose up there and cut down. But either way, it didn't quite work out. Dakota Wilkins holding strong. Our Daytona 500 or Daytona 200 champion. Got his first DRL win. Since then, it hasn't really been a whole lot of unicorns and rainbows. It's been kind of a tough season for him. He still has that win to lock him into the playoffs for now, but this is a good run for him. And Adam Faree, after taking no tires on that restart earlier, he dropped back to 8th almost immediately and has stayed there since. Looking back here, and by the way, we're just running through the field. We have Daniel Holloway in 9th. It's kind of where he's been most of the race, but he was always in traffic, Taylor. Right now he's not in any, so I think now's a good time to see if Holloway has anything for this front group. And Spencer Tart behind.
I was not expecting Spencer Tart to be running 10th with just about 25 laps to go here.
It could be that right front damage, you can see a little bit of crinkle in his nose. That might be just enough to slow him down on these straightaways or affect his handling in some way. And behind him, Jordan Berry, who seemingly has hit everything in this race, has one of the cleanest trucks out here, doing a good job of keeping up with his damage management. He is in 11th, and I'll tell you, if I hit as many things as he did, I certainly wouldn't be in 11th. So that's a great run by Jordan Berry. James Pandolf,
he's still flirting with that wall.
The man, the myth, the legend. That is our DRL league owner. He is the reason why all of this exists. Running in, I believe that is 13th spot right now. Behind him, David Lindahl, the Tokyo Drift King. Speaking of nicknames, we're missing a couple people here in this race. Matthew Ponce is not here. I don't see Chris Sims, our landscaper, either. So,
Chris Rice.
Oh, Chris Rice. Sorry. Thank you, Taylor. potentially we could have, if those, I mean, we could have had a field of almost 35 trucks. A couple of guys decided to take the week off here, as we also saw a couple of people do that at Martinsville as well. But next week we head to Milwaukee, another track that the NASCAR has started to ignore, but here in the Dynasty Racing League we do not, and that is located in my neck of the woods in West Allis, Wisconsin. That is also a 1 mile track, but it will, and I'll bring this up in pre-race next week, not any way, shape, or form similar to the 1 mile track that we are seeing here today. And our next broadcast will be live on Monday with Ryan Branch and Martin Wenzel at Bristol. Oh, Lord have mercy, Bristol.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not. I'll put it that way.
And for those of you that don't know, Taylor Butcher Benjamin competes in our top Premier Series, in the Cup Series. Bristol, with that new grip package, that could be a very interesting, you know, that's going to be a whole new race for everybody, as we saw, you know, every race from, I believe it was Auto Club on, or ISM on, has had that new grip. Obviously, anything larger than a mile has also that tapered spacer, which keeps those 750 horsepower cars roughly around 550, I believe. So we've seen a lot of different racing up there. Wade Hustad, another driver that you know, he will experience that, so that'll be interesting, making history almost each week as we go to a new track with that new package. But here it's the same old trucks, the same old drivers, and same old Wade Hustad out to a 2.4 second gap. Jeremy Hebel making an almost genius of a call right now, holding off Richard Springer, he's had I think second place for most of the last 70 laps, and Richard Springer, after that restart, he was about a tenth behind him. He's actually lost a couple tenths. He's now 3 tenths behind Jeremy Hebel. So those two tires, very interesting.
Yeah, he's done a terrific job, and Hustad, I mean, of course, nobody doesn't seem to have anything for him right now, as he's 2.7 seconds ahead. Coming to, I believe this is 18 laps to go.
Yeah, anyone watching this race, you can't see what I see, but here's a little mind-blowing stat. That last time around, Wade Hustad ran a 24.5 second lap. Second place ran a 24.8 second lap. That is a huge, that is insane. That is I mean, that's just one lap. He lost 0.3 of a second. That's incredible. And
Richard Springer into the wall off turn 4.
And we were riding from James Zarello when we saw that. Let's get another instant replay of what happened. He just kind of slid up. Let's look at the cockpit view. I want to watch his hands here. Again, this is Richard Springer. It did seem like he was pushing it. That might have been just a slight misjudgment there. It didn't seem like his truck was tracking up there.
Oh, we got a caution.
And that's unfortunate, because that was going to be a good battle between Lorello and Springer. The caution is involving Trent Helt.
The second time for him.
And
what was actually in front of him, it was with Adam Purcell
and Adam
Faree.
Too many Adams. Whoa! Look at that one more time. Adam Purcell looked like he got an absolute shot from the 29. Or Adam, oh my God, I'm getting mixed up with all these Adams. There was a huge speed difference. So let's look at that one more time from Blimp Cam. Look at the gap between he and the 29 on exit at turn 1 and 2, and by 3 and 4, these trucks are making contact. This is an incredible closing rate.
Man, I don't know how there weren't more trucks collected in that. They had about 5 or 6 more coming straight at that 09 truck.
Well, let's ride on board with, if I can get to it, our league owner, James Pandoff. Let's see what he saw with these drivers checking up. I mean, he can't see anything. And you see the smoke there? He checks up, absolutely slams on the brakes. Look at that, those hands. Spencer Tart did an incredible job as well, as we will ride on board with him.
You're not kidding.
And again, this is our last caution here that we were looking at. Oh my!
Hopefully.
Oh, man. Great job by everyone. It's funny because...
It's a good thing you're not a spotter, because
yeah.
might not be the most calming voice in the driver's ear, but I
yeah.
can understand.
Wrecking in turn 3 and 4. Yeah, I'm sure that would do very well. I'd probably lose my job almost immediately, but good thing I have this job instead. Wade Hustad beats out Jeremy Hebel, which those two tires officially paid off for him. He is now in sync with all the other leaders. James Arello comes out third, I believe. Fourth.
No, third.
Third.
He got out in front of who was that? Springer.
Now,
I was just about to say, just as that caution was happening, he and Lorello and Springer were going at it hard. They were almost door banging each other after Springer had collected himself after hitting the wall off of turn 4. They were almost leaning on each other just as that caution came out.
well, somebody took notes. The reason we're watching Spencer Tart under pace is he took 2 tires along with David Lindahl, who took 2 tires. Corey Sherman takes 2 tires, even though he's a little bit further back. But Spencer Tart, who's been kind of mired back around the top 10 all day, all of a sudden he is just in front of Richard Springer in 4th position. So there was a little bit of a longer run on that one. I tried to call out wheel spin for Jeremy Hebel on his 2 tires, but it didn't quite happen. Here, though, well, I guess we'll just see. We'll just say it. We'll say that. Jeffrey Meyer having a good rebound after that incident with Brady Briggs. He is in 6th. Robbie Armstrong back to 7th after being in the top 5 most of the early part. Dakota Wilkins in 8th. Adam Faree in 9th after that contact with Adam Purcell. And David Lindahl on those 2 tires rounds out our top 10. Now looking at points here. Jeffrey Meyer, Casey Drake, P.J. O'Leary, he's going to fall. P.J. O'Leary, I mean, if he doesn't lose a position or 2, he's definitely going to lose a lot of points to our leader, Jeffrey Meyer. And Casey Drake, I mean, both of those drivers, after a great couple weeks in a row from both of them, finishing top 3, top 5, not feeling the Rockingham love here. But we're going to have just 10 laps to go here, ladies and gentlemen. Wade Hustad, if he can get a good jump, we'll see what Jeremy Hebel can do on 4 fresh tires instead of just 2. Richard Springer, after hitting that wall, he was 2nd place for most of this race. He's back in 5th. We're going to see a lot of movement here, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a crazy restart. Pace car getting ready to come off. Taylor, take it away, buddy.
11 laps to go when Hustad takes off, which he does very quickly. Morello trying to keep people up on that high side. This is where the aggression level is. People hits the wall. And down into the inside wall, he's going to collect more trucks. And the caution is back out. What a tough break for last year's winner of this race.
And after having such a great strategy call, one little hiccup, and he gets just a little wide on Lorello. Spencer Tart doesn't get any damage. It seems like he just kind of rolled off Hebel. Of course, Jordan Berry probably hit Jeremy Hebel just a little bit, because why not? And it looks like Austin Collins, who was that? Was that Matt Vanderkoy that absolutely destroyed Jeremy Hebel? Let's go on board with Matt Vanderkoy here.
Yeah, he T-boned the back of that truck pretty hard.
Ooh, Vanderkoy, that was a tough situation to be in. I mean, you could still see after smoke was visible. He was still on the accelerator, and then all of a sudden Jeremy Hebel pops up. Jeremy Hebel did nothing wrong there. He had his brakes held down, and Matt Vanderkoy just couldn't find a way around him here. Let's see if we can. Pardon me. Let's see if we can get an interview with Jeremy Hebel. Jeremy Hebel, this is the DRL TV broadcast booth. Do you have a copy, sir?
Yes, sir.
After an incredible, even though that just happened, still the call of the race, taking those 2 tires, you finally get on sync with all the leaders, and one little mishap, one little slip up, You know, how much damage do you have, man? Can you continue?
No, I think I will be in the pits for the duration of this one. Looks like I got 10 minutes of required repairs, so that's it for the #1 machine tonight.
Well, this kind of seems to be the story of your season. You win a race, you have a bad finish. The next one, you won last week. You're defending race winner here. I mean, what do you have next week as we head to the Milwaukee Mile? Is this going to be one where you win, or is this going to be one where you wreck? Because there seems to be no in-between for you.
Well, I'm definitely going to try to win. Last year, the race went pretty good for me, I think. So we'll hope for better and brighter days on the horizon. But yeah, I knew I didn't really have anything for Wade, and the 2 tires to get me back up after I got into a little incident there with Mr. Springer, and it made me lose a bunch of positions. I knew I had to try something to get up there, and you know, having 2 wins in the bag can let you try a little bit of different strategy. And I was grinning when that caution came out, and actually I kind of wish it didn't. I think I probably would have been all right holding the Springer off there to the end, but fresh tires, and I just don't like restarting on the outside, and I just pushed it too hard, and that's what happens.
Well, I mean, before, you know, entering this race, you had come back. Obviously, you have those 2 wins in your back pocket. You had come back and clawed your way back up into the top 5 in points. So obviously going to take a little bit of a hit here tonight, but we look forward to seeing you next week at Milwaukee. Jeremy, I appreciate you taking time out of your race here and interviewing with us even after that disappointment there. But you do not defend this race, but it doesn't mean you don't walk into Milwaukee as a favorite to win that race. So good luck, and we will see you next week.
All right, thank you.
Please remind me what team your team name is so I can put you down there, buddy.
FMS.
FMS. And his FMS teammate now is Daniel Holloway, or not Daniel Holloway, but Dakota Wilkins. Still kind of hanging around there in 6th, 7th. He's slowly moving up. But right now...
about the front row, James Lorello is back up.
Well, the last time he started
for this restart.
Last time he started on the outside near the front, it didn't work out for him, and he's starting in the same spot that Jeremy Hebel just was. Another thing to note is Spencer Tart, who ended up turning Hebel after that incident, obviously not of his own doing. We'll see if he accrued any damage, and if so, what that does. I mean, he's already on 2 tires as it is. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what this brings us. This will be just about our final restart. The next flag will probably end this race.
Yep, it'll be 6 laps to go here. Houston gets a good start.
And Jeffrey Meyer
down.
And Spencer Tart a little bit off the pace on that restart, kind of stacked up behind him. Jeffrey Meyer moves up to 3rd. Richard Springer back to 4th. Dakota Wilkins fighting for a top 5 here. We're going to look at this battle between Spencer Tart and Adam Ferree for 6th. Ooh, a turn!
Oh.
He turned him!
Hang on! Oh, there they go. Still green. Those more trucks get collected.
Now that was actually net code here.
There's the caution.
We will get back to live racing here in just a moment.
Oh, Marvin Wingfield gets hit very late by Adam Ferree.
I'm trying to find a good... Here, you know what? I found it. I was going to say, I was trying to find a good camera view to see this net code, and I think I might have found it here. As we will ride on board with Robbie Armstrong as these 2 trucks enter 3 and 4.
Yep, that's what it was.
That's
wow,
net code.
Robbie was very, very fortunate to get by there.
And the absolute mayhem. Lindahl almost gets turned. I believe he got touched by Jordan Berry, who has... I think with that, he has officially hit everything in this race, and still...
Daniel Holloway got a big shunt there from Ferree as well. He made a very nice save.
Look at Jordan Berry's truck. I'm jealous. My team doesn't make vehicles like that. Again, talking earlier, some of the scrapes that we saw on the wall could have been a netcode thing. It could have been him hitting him on our screen, but on his, he actually wasn't. But right now, he officially has damage, and we can see it visibly. But I'm not sure if we will get another restart here.
Yeah, the lights, they would have to go out next time, or that's going to be it.
But if this race stands as is, Jeffrey Meyer, our points leader, a great rebound. He was back in the pack earlier. Obviously, more notably, he had that incident with Brady Briggs. He is in third. Lorello would end up finishing second. Richard Springer, after hitting that wall and receiving what I would assume is pretty significant damage, would finish fourth. And Dakota Wilkins, Mr. Highside, he would be our top 5 here. Robbie Armstrong would be 6th. Spencer Tart, I believe, would be 7th, as they're still sorting that out. And let's look outside of Wade's cockpit view, and we'll see if these lights turn off. And if they do not, the race is official. Regardless of whether we get another restart in, I have to thank all the viewers for tuning in here to DRL TV. You are the reason why we do this every Wednesday, Monday, and Tuesday. You know, there's a lot of leagues out there that have great racing, but they don't broadcast it.
Yep, the lights are still on, so that's going to do it.
So Wade Hustad will be your winner. But just finishing my point here, you, the viewers, you're the only reason. We don't broadcast our stuff because we just like talking into a mic, even though it may seem like I do. I actually don't. We do this for you guys. We do this for the fans of the drivers, for the families. We do this for people that are looking to get into iRacing. They can watch what we do, and you know that there could be some people that watch this stream, Taylor, that ended up saying, you know what, I'm actually going to go out and get an iRacing subscription. This looks like incredible fun. We do it for all those reasons, but most importantly for you viewers. So I do have to thank you for tuning in. Wade Hustad, what a race. I mean, he led all but, 10 laps maybe? We'll get the official count here in just a second when we pull up the unofficial results, but incredible race here at Rockingham.
How about the back half of the top 10? Jarrett Rogers, after nearly colliding with a pit road wall after the incident with PJ O'Leary, he's going to finish 8th. Casey Drake, after being an absolute non-factor all race, dodged the wrecks and is going to come home 9th and salvage a decent points day. And the man behind Dynasty Racing League, James Pandolf, after getting involved in the Brady Briggs Jeffrey Meyer contact, he's going to get a top 10 as well.
And maybe I'll get fired for saying this, as he is my boss, but just before this race, maybe a half an hour before, we spoke to James Pandolf from his phone as he was leaving work. So not only did he come in here and have an impressive finish, he did so without, with minimal practice here at Rockingham. Yeah. Huge shout out to him. And if I'm not here next week, Taylor, it's because I told you guys that. But this is the final lap. Wade Hustad will cross the line as our winner. He is now 1 for 4 as far as dropping down from the Cup Series and gets that win that had seemed to just been meant to elude him all season, at least up to this point. A dominating performance. James Zarella finishes 2nd. Jeffrey Meyer finishes 3rd. And as we mentioned, Springer and Dakota Wilkins will round out our top 5 as we will pull up the results. Wade Hustad leading 106. James Zarello, who had a very, and we'll talk to him here in just a second, had a very busy race, finishes 2nd after leading just a few laps there. And then you can see the rest of the field. Corey Sherman, as we noted, we saw him a little bit earlier this race. No tires was not the call. Matt LeBlanc finishing 5 laps down in 20th. Marvin Wingfield, who I expected to bounce back here, just didn't quite do it. He finishes 18th. But looking here...
Yeah, he was a victim of that last wreck.
And we see here the 2 guys that were involved in early incidents here. And let's watch our race winner, Wade Hustad, burn it down.
He's got good practice at doing this.
Yeah, I feel sorry for his engine builders.
Yeah, because they got to go in and repair that stuff just about every week, it seems like. Wow, that's some good stuff there with those donuts. And Jeffrey Meyer in 3rd is going to do some donuts as well.
Now let's pull in our 3rd place driver, Mr. Jeffrey Meyer, as he is, he's celebrating here. Jeffrey Meyer, this is the DRL TV booth. Do you have a copy, sir?
Yes, I do.
Well, you entered Martinsville with a points lead, a pretty decent one after a great second place finish at Auto Club, and then Martinsville did not go your way. The points got really tight, but today You battled through a little bit of adversity here. Talk us through that incident with Brady Briggs early on in the race, and then how the rest of your race unfolded.
Brady wasn't racing me real respectful, so I didn't race him real respectful, I guess. He cut down on me, and I had nowhere to go once he cut down in front of me, and wasn't giving him any room once he started pinching me. So after that, it was just everybody gave each other respect, and I've seen a lot of I let a few guys by that were faster, and I just wanted to survive.
Well, after an eventful race at Martinsville, certainly an eventful race here tonight, we look forward to another mile track next week, but certainly much different from the mile track we were on today, Milwaukee. What do you have going into next week? What type of skill do you have here at the Milwaukee Mile?
I haven't ran there a lot, so I guess we'll find out.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, while we have you, feel free to give any shout-outs before you leave the interview, buddy.
Getty and Taylor for putting on the broadcast. You guys do a good job. DRL for putting on the league, and good job to Wade and for winning the race. And dang it, stole another one from me.
Well, you haven't quite claimed that win yet. And last season you didn't get your first win until the first race of the playoffs. But obviously right now as it stands, you extend that points lead, which obviously is very important. And, we'll start going to some of these races here. Looking at the schedule, what might be the next race that you think you have a very good shot at winning? At the next of the next couple races coming up.
I'm not sure what the schedule looks like. Like I said, I don't know about Milwaukee. I'm good at mile and a half. I think I'm good at Dover. So
awesome.
We'll get one eventually.
Well, Jeff, we appreciate your time. Good run tonight. Congratulations on third and extending your already existing points lead here in the championship. And we will see you next week in Milwaukee, good sir.
Yep, that's the main thing. Thanks.
All right, and now that was Jeffrey Meyer, but let's try to pull in.
Yep, let's bring in our second place man, James Lorello. Hey, James Lorello, it's a broadcast booth. You got a copy, sir?
Gotcha, fellas.
Well, you seem to have just as quick a truck as Wade used to have, but an incident not an incident per se, but a tough pit stop. Had it not been for that, how do you think you would have been able to challenge Wade for the win?
Yeah, I think that last little run there, I was getting him. He missed 3 and 4, and I was catching up to him. We were just talking about it. I think it would have been some good racing. But two things got me. There was the couple cars stayed out on old tires earlier in a run on that long run, and I got caught behind him. And then that pit stall, I just totally missed my stall.
Well, we've seen the early part of your season, James, and I've experienced it firsthand as I race with you on Tuesdays. The early part of your season has not gone to plan. But the last 3 races you've been in, you finished second, and then one more time you finished second. Now I know you want the win, but what does it mean to you right now to just kind of just feel maybe the pressure lift off your shoulders a little bit as you're stringing these really good runs together?
Yeah, I hope that the momentum can just keep going, because it there was a lot of pressure when I was finishing 30th and 25th. I felt like I was never going to climb out of that. So glad to have this string of runs. Hopefully we can put it together and not have any mistakes and get a win of it.
Well, more impressively today, we've seen you get stuck in the back and ultimately get taken out. Today you do so and you climb through the field and you finish second, which is a definite 180 from what we've seen from you early on this season. But welcome to the DRL Truck Series, a good second place finish. Hopefully we see you a little bit later on, in the Truck Series, and of course we will see you next Tuesday when the Grand National Series takes on Bristol.
Yeah, I'm excited to run some more races. Appreciate it.
And that was James Zarello, and we're gonna pull in his as to our teammate Wade here in just a second. But James, before we let you go, can you give your shout-outs, please?
Yeah, just thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast, Getty. Really, I'm looking forward to watching it. Sounded like it was a good one. And thanks to S2R and all these guys. A great run. It was a great run with Wade, and thanks to Ryan for always helping us practice.
He said it was a good one. You have never, you just don't watch that many broadcasts then. All right, James. Well, I appreciate your time, and we will, we'll see you the next time we see you in the DRL Truck Series, but of course we'll see you next Tuesday in the Grand National Series. Good sir.
See you then. I'll beat you too, Getty.
Probably.
Such
That's true.
modesty.
Well, that was James Lorello. Let's pull in the race winner, Mr. Wade Hustad. Wade Hustad, do you have a copy, sir?
10-4.
Well, this race wasn't really any different from the other times that we've seen you here in the DRL Truck Series. You led the most at Las Vegas, you led the most at Auto Club, and you led the most tonight. The only difference is you executed perfectly pit road. I don't think you were ever beaten off pit road by anybody that took 4 tires or was on the same strategy as you. And those restarts were just key. I know you had that one sketchy restart, but instead of getting caught up in it like you did at Auto Club, you were able to blast right through. Actually, your teammate got affected more. So, if you can, what was the difference here tonight versus the other 2 races where you led the most laps, but you didn't get that win?
I'd say we went 3 wide and didn't get wrecked tonight. No, just kept the nose clean. At this track, you have to just keep it as low as you can on both sides of the track. And it was really easy to overdrive corner entry because the banking, the way it transitions from the straights to the corners, can really eat up that right front. So we tried to keep tire wear as even as possible. And it seemed like it really wasn't too bad until you got about 40 laps in. I could really start making some ground after, I think it was like 30 or 40. But then we had a yellow, soon after that, the only long run that we had. So just stayed out front, and, we got lucky. It held up James there on one of those restarts with those guys on 2 tires. But we did what we had to do tonight, and that was hold true all the way through the race, and we came out with the W.
Well, one thing I mentioned, and certainly maybe one thing that you noticed, your short run speed was far superior than anyone else. But there was there were some moments after a long run, drivers like Richard Springer, you two were running identical lap times. Was there ever a moment where you're like, if this does restart, I'm in trouble, or were you pretty confident that if you just held true to yourself that this was victory no matter what?
Yeah, we were pretty confident. I always watch the tracker as far as times go lap by lap, and I could see Richard was, holding true. He had fast lap times too, but I really wasn't pushing it too hard till it was after 30, 40 laps. I could see I was starting to gain, 2/10 or so, and then I was like, all right, I still got tires left, so then I really started to push it and go. But if you were to ask me out of the Truck Series this year, I think the 2 guys that everyone should be watching is going to be Jeffrey Meyer and Richard Springer. I think those guys are going to be the ones that are going to come out on top. They're extremely consistent. Richard is, in my eyes, one of the best drivers out of the Truck Series and a strong candidate for moving up here in the future. But I just want to say anybody who's watching, if you're going to bet on anybody, I'd say the 21 or the 50 this year.
Well, all you're really doing right now is echoing what we've been saying all year. With a change of luck in a couple of these drivers' races, they would easily be leading the points by far, separating themselves from some of these other guys. But Wade, before we let you go, first we want to thank you for putting on an incredible performance. But more importantly, this is your opportunity to get your shout outs out, sir.
Yeah, just thank you guys for everything you do week in, week out. I'd say I thought the racing was tough enough the way it is, but you guys really tend to do a fantastic job putting together every broadcast that you do. There's 3 each week. So everybody in the booth, everybody on the admin team, and Dynasty Racing League as a whole, you guys do a wonderful job. I do want to thank Horse Graphics out of New Ulm, Minnesota. They do a wonderful job with the graphics that they do for billboards, trucks, semis, any sort of advertisement you need, they can do. So give them a call if you're looking for any of that. But that's all I really had for tonight.
Awesome. Well, Wade, incredible performance. And if you can hurry up and get that number of what you just mentioned and maybe post it in the YouTube chat for anyone that's interested, please do so. Otherwise, great performance. It's good to kind of see you pull through. At the same time, I'm sure some of these other truck regulars were hoping that you kind of wouldn't. So,
yeah, that seems to be when we come down, but it's more or less just for fun. We're here to just try to, gain some ground, get some experience, and same with everybody else. I've been in those positions too, where you're always chasing that fast guy. So it should be motivation for.
Now, I know we promised that this would be a short interview, but I lied. Real quick, tell us about your perspective I'm very curious on the new A-car package. Obviously, that's what you do regularly. What is your overall, first opinions on the first couple tracks that we've been through? And, is that one of the reasons why you try to drop down as often as you can now, considering maybe the A-car is a little bit more different than what you imagined it was going to be?
Yeah, personally, I feel the package is more suited to level out the playing field. The faster guys don't really like it because with the old package, the low downforce, the high horsepower, it was so easy to overdrive corners and you had to manage those tires throughout a run. And there's, those top split guys, especially, like Anthony, they can run maybe a couple hundred slower than you lap by lap for the first 10 or 15, but then they eat you alive on the longer runs. So the new package has me a little sketchy on the first 5 laps because you run so tight. You suck up on the draft pretty hardcore. But I'm not a fan of it. In my opinion, it drives like the truck, just it rotates a lot better. So I think you're going to see a lot of turmoil and new guys come up and start racing really hard and competing for those wins week in and week out. So it definitely leveled the playing field. It's more like plate racing everywhere we go, especially on mile and a halves. But we'll see where it takes us. And hopefully, in my opinion, I want NASCAR to change it so that way iRacing can go back to the old ways.
Well, I mean, certainly there's nothing wrong with parity, but when you get drivers up there that may be running a little bit beyond their limits, that's when we come into trouble. But your next race, the next time we will see you is Monday night. We'll pull up the flyer for it. Monday night at Bristol. The grip package will still be there, but the tapered spacer will not. You have all 750 horsepower that you ask for. Good luck on Monday and have a good race. And we'll see you the next time you drop down, buddy.
Sounds good. Thanks. Thank you, guys. Next week's going to be fun.
Yep, I agree.
Bristol. Well, that was Wade Hustad. And as we mentioned, that is the next broadcast that we will see. We will see Wade Hustad in action with his fellow A-racer counterparts, taking on Bristol. A little bit more grip, same amount of horsepower, so it's still going to be, you'll still see the wheel spin and all that stuff like that. All the things that make Bristol, so fun to watch for the audience. For here, this was the Rockingham 125. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in again. I almost say it maybe too much during these races. But right now we're going to take an opportunity to note the people that are involved with DRL TV and the Dynasty Racing League as a whole. We've got the administration down there. Martin Wenzel will never get enough credit. Every graphic that you see, every thing that is on a broadcast, and I feel like we have a very extensive list of graphics for the broadcast. That's done by one gentleman, Martin Wenzel. It was originally set up by Jordan Gonzalez, who's still, part of our support team here in DRL. And the broadcast team, Race Control, which are obviously the unsung heroes, and our owner, James Pandolf, who we mentioned today, will probably fire me in just a few minutes. Taylor, next week we got Milwaukee Mile. Give us your closing statements for this race and what you look forward to next week, buddy.
Well, tonight I went just about as I expected. I knew it was definitely a lot different than last year, that's for sure, with the amount of cautions. But Wade Hustad showing once again just how dominant he can be. And last year, remember how dominant he was at Milwaukee when he joined the field, and he had stated in his post-race interview last year that he had never been to Milwaukee when he went and led every single lap of that race last year. So I'm sure these guys are hoping that he doesn't show up next week.
Right. Now, one thing I did last week, and we'll do it here real quick. I know this is kind of unconventional for a broadcast to pull up a web browser and throw it in the middle of the screen. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up our updated point standings before we leave off here. You can see that Jeffrey Meyer, and I will pull it up right here. You can see that Jeffrey Meyer is leading. He extended his lead over Casey Drake by just a tad. We will look at Robbie Armstrong, P.J. O'Leary, Jeremy Hebel, both lose a spot to Robbie, who had a great run. Dakota Wilkins moving up. Jordan Berry still hasn't got that top 5, but he has 5 top 10s, which puts him in 7th. And guys, that was an incredible race. Thank you everyone for watching. Again, if you like and enjoy these broadcasts that Dynasty Racing League puts on, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Otherwise, Taylor, it's always a pleasure to broadcast with you. It's always a pleasure to bring the the skill set of these truck guys to the interwebs. That way everyone can view what we get to view. But, you know, as for this race in particular, this was the Rockingham 125. Our race winner, Wade Hustad, with an incredible performance. And we will see everybody next week. We will be right here, same time, same place, for the Milwaukee Mile, here in the Dynasty Racing League Truck Series on DRL TV. This is Getty Buckner, signing off.